Summer heat rolled across the Arizona desert like invisible fire. Dust danced across the empty highway as a black pickup truck disappeared into the horizon. Nearly 50 miles away from the nearest city stood a weathered roadside bar called the Rusty Horse. It wasn't the kind of place tourists visited. Truck drivers whispered stories about it. Local police avoided it whenever possible. Inside those wooden walls, fights were considered entertainment. Broken bottles decorated the floor almost every weekend, and every customer knew one rule: never challenge the Iron Wolves. The Iron Wolves weren't just another biker club. They controlled illegal gambling, underground cage fights, and protection rackets across 3 counties. People who refused to pay them often disappeared. Their leader, Rex Dalton, believed fear was more valuable than money. He enjoyed humiliating people even more than hurting them. That night, the Rusty Horse was packed. Country music echoed through the smoky room. Pool balls collided loudly. Beer mugs slammed against tables. The smell of whiskey mixed with cigarette smoke filled the air. Nobody noticed the quiet Asian man entering through the front door. Bruce Lee wore a simple black Chinese training jacket, black trousers, black shoes. Nothing about his appearance demanded attention. He wasn't trying to impress anyone. He simply wanted dinner after a long journey. The bartender looked up. His expression immediately changed. "You picked the wrong place tonight." Bruce smiled politely. "I only need food." The bartender hesitated. "You don't understand." Before he could finish, the front door exploded open. Heavy boots stomped across the wooden floor. Conversations instantly died. One by one, nearly 20 bikers entered. Leather jackets, chains, heavy rings, tattoos covering every arm. The Iron Wolves had arrived. At their center walked Rex Dalton, 6'5", nearly 300 pounds, a shaved head, a thick beard, cold blue eyes that never showed mercy. Everyone lowered their heads as he passed. Everyone, except Bruce Lee. Bruce quietly continued reading the menu. That tiny action caught Rex's attention. He stopped walking. "Who's the tourist?" Nobody answered. Rex slowly approached Bruce's table. Each step sounded like a hammer striking the floor. Bruce calmly looked up. "Evening," Rex laughed. "You got courage." "I have manners." Several bikers chuckled. Rex leaned closer. "Do you know whose seat you're sitting in?" Bruce looked around. "I didn't see anyone using it." The laughter stopped. The room became silent again. The bartender quietly stepped backward. He had seen this before. Someone always got hurt. Rex placed both hands on the table. "I'll ask once." "Stand up." Bruce folded the menu. "I haven't eaten yet." Several bikers exchanged surprised looks. Nobody spoke to Rex like that. Nobody. Rex suddenly flipped the entire table. Plates shattered across the floor. Soup splashed onto Bruce's shoes. The room erupted with laughter. Bruce slowly stood. Not angry, not frightened, just calm. "So," he said quietly, "now you've wasted dinner." The gang laughed even harder. One biker named Snake stepped forward. His arms were covered with black tattoos. A gold tooth flashed whenever he smiled. "You know what?" Snake reached into a nearby basket. He picked up a raw egg. "This little guy looks too clean." The crowd immediately understood. They began chanting, "Do it! Do it!" Snake cracked the egg directly over Bruce Lee's head. The cold yolk slowly slid through Bruce's black hair, down his forehead, across his face, onto his jacket. The entire bar exploded with laughter. People pounded tables. Beer spilled everywhere. Someone whistled. Another man shouted, "Look at him!" Snake laughed so hard tears filled his eyes. "I thought kung fu masters were supposed to be fast." Bruce remained perfectly still. The egg continued dripping. Not a single muscle moved. Then, Bruce closed his eyes. For one slow breath, inhale, exhale. His late master had once told him, "A man's true strength is revealed only after his pride is attacked." Bruce opened his eyes. They were completely calm, almost emotionless. He looked directly at Snake, then at Rex. Finally around the room, every face was laughing. Every face expected anger. Instead, Bruce quietly asked, "Is everyone finished?" The laughter slowly faded. Something about his voice felt different, too calm, too controlled. Rex refused to let the moment die. He snapped his fingers. A massive biker named Crusher stepped forward. Crusher stood nearly 7 feet tall. His fists looked like concrete blocks. He weighed over 350 pounds. "You want food?" Rex laughed. "Beat Crusher. If you survive, you eat free." The room erupted again. People gathered around. Tables were shoved aside. An empty fighting circle formed in seconds. Underground fights were normal here. Most ended with ambulances. Bruce quietly removed his soaked jacket. He folded it neatly, placed it over a chair. The simple act confused everyone. No rage, no shouting, no threats, only silence. Crusher cracked his neck. "You sure you don't want a doctor first?" Bruce smiled gently. "I'll recommend one." The crowd laughed. Crusher didn't. He charged. The wooden floor shook beneath every step. His right fist flew toward Bruce's head with terrifying force. Bruce moved barely 3 inches. The punch missed. Crusher's momentum carried him forward. Bruce lightly touched the giant's elbow, then his shoulder. Nothing happened, or so everyone believed. Crusher turned. He swung again. Bruce slipped underneath. His fingers struck the inside of Crusher's arm. A sharp pop echoed. Crusher blinked. His right arm suddenly hung limp. He stared at it. "What?" Before he finished speaking, Bruce stepped forward. 1 inch. His palm landed softly against Crusher's chest. It didn't even look powerful. The sound was strange. Thump. Crusher flew backward. His enormous body smashed through 2 wooden tables. The entire bar froze. Nobody moved. Crusher struggled to breathe. His ribs screamed with pain. He tried standing, collapsed again. Bruce calmly looked at him. "I told you." "I know a doctor." No one laughed. Not anymore. The silence became almost frightening. Rex's smile disappeared. He glanced toward his men. Something was wrong. Very wrong. Crusher had defeated professional boxers. He once broke a man's jaw with 1 punch. Yet Bruce had barely touched him. Snake swallowed nervously. "Boss." "Maybe." Rex cut him off. "No." His pride wouldn't allow retreat. He slowly nodded toward another biker. This one carried a pistol beneath his leather vest. The man quietly pulled it out. He walked behind Bruce, pressed the cold barrel against Bruce's back. "Move! I'll blow your spine apart." The customers gasped. Even the bartender whispered, "No." Bruce didn't turn around. He simply asked, "Are you sure?" The biker grinned. "Very." Bruce closed his eyes once again. The room held its breath. Outside, thunder rolled across the distant desert. Inside, nobody realized the real fight hadn't even started. The cold steel of the pistol rested firmly against Bruce Lee's back. Nobody in the rusty horse dared to breathe. The country music had stopped. Pool balls lay motionless on the tables. Even the bartender slowly placed his glass beneath the counter, afraid a sudden sound might trigger a massacre. The biker holding the pistol smiled confidently. His name was Hawk. Unlike most of Rex Dalton's men, Hawk had served in the military before joining the Iron Wolves. He had fired weapons in real combat and believed no fighter, no matter how skilled, could defeat a loaded gun. "You think you're special?" Hawk sneered. Bruce answered without turning around. "No." "You think you're faster than a bullet?" Bruce remained silent. Hawk pressed the muzzle harder against Bruce's spine. "I asked you a question." Bruce finally spoke. "I've never tried." Several bikers laughed nervously. Rex folded his muscular arms across his chest. "Finally. Now he understands." Bruce slowly raised both hands shoulder high. The movement relaxed everyone. Some of the customers looked away. They expected to witness an execution. A frightened waitress quietly whispered a prayer. Then Bruce spoke again. "But," Hawk frowned. "But what?" Bruce smiled almost invisibly. "You made one mistake." Hawk laughed. "I've got the gun." Bruce nodded. "Exactly. And now, I know exactly where your hand is." Before Hawk could understand the meaning, Bruce exploded into motion. Everything happened faster than human eyes could comfortably follow. Bruce suddenly twisted his hips. His left foot slid backward. His body rotated underneath the line of the pistol. At the exact same instant, his left hand trapped Hawk's wrist. His right elbow smashed into Hawk's ribs. Crack! The sound echoed across the bar. Hawk gasped violently. Before pain reached his brain, Bruce rotated the biker's wrist another 90 degrees. Snap! The pistol fell harmlessly onto the wooden floor. Bruce caught it before it bounced. He removed the magazine, ejected the chambered round, dropped every bullet onto the floor. Clink! 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 Each piece of ammunition rolled across the wood like tiny bells announcing disaster. Then Bruce calmly handed the empty pistol back to Hawk. "You won't need this." The bar stood frozen. Nobody could believe what they had just witnessed. Hawk stared at his twisted wrist. His fingers refused to move. His breathing became shallow. "You—" "My hand," Bruce gently nodded. "It'll heal." "If you stop using it." Hawk collapsed onto one knee, clutching his arm. Fear spread through the gang like wildfire, not because Bruce had disarmed him, because Bruce hadn't even looked at him while doing it. Rex's jaw tightened. He could feel something dangerous happening. For years, the Iron Wolves had ruled through fear. Tonight, fear had chosen a different master. Rex slammed his fist onto the nearest table. "Enough!" His voice shook the room. "You think one lucky move makes you dangerous?" Bruce calmly wiped egg yolk from his eyebrow. "I don't believe in luck." Rex pointed toward the back of the bar. 4 enormous bikers stepped forward together. Each one looked capable of winning professional heavyweight fights. Big Mike, Vulture, Chains, Bull. The customers immediately recognized them. These 4 men had once defeated 12 rival gang members in less than 5 minutes. Nobody had ever beaten them together. Rex smiled again. "You wanted dinner. Earn it." The 4 men surrounded Bruce. 1 moved left. 1 moved right. 2 blocked every exit. Bruce slowly examined each face. His breathing never changed. His heartbeat remained steady. Years of martial arts had taught him something most fighters never understood. When fear controls breathing, fear controls movement. Bruce refused to surrender either. Big Mike attacked first, a massive hook aimed directly at Bruce's temple. Bruce leaned backward. The punch missed by less than an inch. At the same moment, Bruce's fingertips struck Big Mike's shoulder. Pop! The shoulder instantly dislocated. Big Mike screamed. Before he hit the floor, chains attacked from behind. He wrapped a heavy steel chain toward Bruce's neck. Bruce ducked. The chain sliced through empty air. Bruce grabbed the loose end, pulled sharply. Chains stumbled forward. Bruce spun once. Using the biker's own momentum, he launched the giant directly into Vulture. The collision sounded like two trucks crashing together. Both men slammed through the pool table. Wood exploded across the room. Balls flew everywhere. Bull roared in anger. He lifted an entire bar stool above his head. With terrifying strength, he hurled it like a spear. Customers screamed. Bruce stepped sideways. The stool missed him completely. It shattered against the wall. Before Bull recovered, Bruce was already there. One short kick. Not high, not flashy, directly into Bull's knee. Crack! Bull's leg folded sideways. The giant collapsed with a howl that silenced the room. Only Vulture remained standing. His confidence had disappeared. His hands trembled. Bruce looked directly into his eyes. "You don't have to continue." Vulture hesitated. He looked toward Rex, then back toward Bruce. Pride won. He charged. Bruce sighed quietly. At the final moment, Bruce stepped inside the attack. His left hand trapped Vulture's elbow. His right palm struck the center of his chest. A powerful burst of force exploded through the biker's body. Vulture flew backward across the room. His back smashed into the jukebox. The machine sparked violently before crashing onto the floor. Silence. Absolute silence. 4 of Rex's strongest fighters, defeated in less than 30 seconds. Bruce stood exactly where he had begun. His breathing remained calm. The only evidence of battle was a few drops of egg still sliding down the front of his black jacket. One elderly truck driver slowly stood. He had spent 40 years watching bar fights. "I've never seen anything like that." No one answered him. Nobody could. Even Rex Dalton had stopped smiling. For the first time in years, he wasn't looking at prey. He was looking at something he couldn't understand. Then Snake quietly moved beside Rex. His voice barely rose above a whisper. "Boss, I know who he is." Rex kept staring at Bruce. "Who?" Snake swallowed hard. "I saw him in Hong Kong. He defeated 8 men by himself. They called him the Dragon." Rex snorted. "I don't care if he's a dragon. I kill dragons." Without another word, he reached beneath his leather vest. This time, he didn't pull out a pistol. He slowly revealed a long, razor-sharp hunting knife. Its polished blade reflected the dim lights of the bar. The crowd immediately backed away. Everyone knew Rex loved knives. Many people had died watching that blade flash through the air. Rex pointed the knife toward Bruce. His voice became terrifyingly calm. "You embarrassed my men. You broke their bones. Now, I'm going to carve my name into your face." Bruce looked at the blade, then back into Rex's cold blue eyes. For the first time that night, Bruce's expression changed. His calm smile disappeared. His eyes became razor-sharp. He slowly lowered his fighting stance. The air itself seemed heavier. The customers instinctively stepped farther away. Even the injured bikers crawled backward. They sensed what was coming. Outside, lightning split the desert sky. Thunder shook the windows. Inside the rusty horse, the final battle was about to begin. Rain continued falling outside. Water dripped from the edge of the dojo roof, each drop echoing through the heavy silence inside. Bruce Lee stood perfectly still. Victor Kane stood less than 3 feet away. Neither man looked away. The students who had been knocked to the floor slowly pushed themselves up, bruised and breathing heavily. None of them dared interrupt what was happening. Master Liang gently wiped the blood from his forehead. His old eyes never left Bruce. He recognized that expression. Bruce was calm, almost too calm. That was always the most dangerous version of him. Victor finally broke the silence. "So you're the famous Bruce Lee?" His deep voice rolled through the dojo. "I expected someone bigger." Bruce answered quietly, "And I expected someone wiser." Several students exchanged nervous glances. Victor's smile slowly disappeared. "You think you're funny?" Bruce shook his head. "I think you're angry." Victor laughed once. "I'm not angry." "You invaded a school full of students." Bruce took one slow step closer. "You shoved an old man." Another step. "You injured people who never challenged you." Bruce stopped. "That's not strength." Victor cracked his neck loudly. "Enough talking." He pointed toward the center of the dojo. "Fight me." Bruce looked around the room instead. Several students were injured. One young man held his ribs. Another struggled to stand. A wooden shelf had been smashed apart. Teacups lay shattered across the floor. Bruce looked back at Victor. "You've already damaged enough." Victor spread his massive arms. "So you're afraid?" A few reporters quietly smiled, expecting Bruce to lose his temper. Instead, Bruce smiled. "No. I'm giving you another chance." Victor frowned. Bruce raised one finger. "This is the second warning. Leave." A murmur spread through the room. "Second warning?" Victor laughed louder than before. "You've got to be kidding." Bruce remained expressionless. "I'm serious." Victor walked forward until his chest nearly touched Bruce's. The size difference looked almost unbelievable. Bruce barely reached Victor's shoulders. The giant leaned down. "What happens if I don't leave?" Bruce answered without hesitation. "You'll regret it." Victor suddenly shoved Bruce again, this time even harder. The students gasped. Bruce's shoes slid less than an inch across the polished wood. Nothing else moved. Victor blinked. Impossible. He had expected Bruce to stumble. Instead, it felt like pushing against a stone pillar. Bruce calmly brushed the dust from his own shoulder. "I don't want to fight you," Victor roared. "But I want to fight you!" Without warning, Victor launched a massive right hook. The punch cut through the air like a wrecking ball. Several students instinctively closed their eyes. Whoosh! The punch struck. Nothing. Bruce was gone. Victor's fist smashed directly into one of the thick wooden support posts. Crack! The entire dojo shook. The wooden pillars split down the middle. Dust filled the air. Victor slowly looked around. Bruce stood behind him, completely relaxed, hands still lowered. The students stared in disbelief. "He never moved. I didn't even see him." Victor turned. For the first time, his confidence weakened. Bruce spoke softly. "You're powerful." Victor smirked. "I know. But you're slow." That single sentence echoed louder than any punch. Victor's face turned red. He charged. Every heavy step shook the floor. Boom, boom, boom. He swung left. Bruce leaned back barely 2 inches. The fist missed. Victor followed with an elbow. Bruce pivoted. Another miss. A knee strike. Bruce stepped aside. A spinning backhand. Nothing. Again, again, again. Every attack missed by the smallest possible distance. Bruce wasn't escaping. He was demonstrating. His feet floated across the floor. His breathing never changed. Victor's attacks became faster, harder, more desperate. Within 20 seconds, he had thrown nearly 30 powerful strikes. Not one landed. Sweat poured from his forehead. His breathing became heavier. The students couldn't believe what they were seeing. Master Liang quietly smiled. One young student whispered, "Master, why isn't Bruce attacking?" The old man answered without taking his eyes off the fight. "Because Bruce is still trying to save him." Meanwhile, Victor threw another devastating punch. Bruce caught the wrist, only for a fraction of a second, just enough to redirect the force. Victor stumbled forward. Bruce released him immediately. No counterattack. Victor spun around furiously. "Stop running!" Bruce looked almost disappointed. "I'm standing right here." Victor screamed in frustration. He attacked again. Bruce slipped outside the punch, tapped Victor's elbow. The giant lost balance. Bruce stepped away. Again, no strike, no kick, nothing. The reporters continued taking photographs. One whispered, "This doesn't even look real." Another replied, "It's like the giant is fighting air." Victor's breathing grew louder. His muscles were beginning to tighten. His movements slowed. Bruce noticed immediately. "So much strength," Bruce said calmly. "So little control." Victor clenched both fists. "I'm going to crush you," Bruce sighed quietly. "You still don't understand." Victor suddenly grabbed a nearby wooden bench. The students gasped. The heavy bench weighed nearly 100 pounds. Victor lifted it above his head effortlessly. "You think you can dodge this?" He hurled it directly toward Bruce. The massive bench spun through the air. Students shouted. Bruce stepped forward instead of backward. At the last possible instant, his left hand touched one corner. His right hand guided the opposite side. Using the bench's own momentum, he redirected it. The bench spun harmlessly past him, sliding across the floor before stopping against the far wall without striking anyone. The dojo became silent once more. Victor's eyes widened. Bruce lowered his hands. "You almost hurt innocent people." Victor ignored him. Instead, he ripped another wooden training dummy from the floor. Master Liang finally spoke. "Victor?" The giant paused. The old master walked forward slowly despite his injuries. His students tried stopping him. He gently shook his head. Standing between Bruce and Victor, the old man looked directly into the giant's eyes. "When hatred controls your hands, you've already lost the fight." Victor laughed. "Move." Master Liang remained where he stood. Victor's expression darkened. "I said, move." The old man didn't. Victor slowly raised one enormous hand. The students shouted, "Master!" Bruce's eyes sharpened instantly. Everything slowed. Victor swung toward the old man. Bruce moved. No one actually saw him leave his position. One heartbeat. He was standing several feet away. The next, he was already between Victor and Master Liang. Bruce caught Victor's wrist before it reached the old man's face. The impact echoed through the dojo. Victor pushed harder. His enormous muscles bulged. Veins covered his arms. Bruce didn't move, not even a fraction. Victor's eyes widened. He pushed with everything he had. Nothing. Bruce looked directly into his eyes. "This," he said quietly, "is your last warning." Victor snarled. "You think you can stop me?" Bruce slowly released his wrist, stepped back, raised one finger. "For the third time, leave the old man alone." Every student stood frozen. Every reporter lowered their cameras. No one wanted to interrupt the moment. Victor smiled. But it wasn't confidence anymore. It was wounded pride. "You've embarrassed me long enough." He lowered his shoulders, tightened both fists, and assumed the most aggressive stance anyone in the dojo had ever seen. Bruce inhaled once, very slowly, then exhaled. Master Liang quietly closed his eyes. He already knew what was about to happen. The warnings were over. The lesson was about to begin. Panic spread through the Rusty Horse like wildfire. Customers rushed toward the front entrance. Men threw their shoulders against the heavy wooden doors. Nothing happened. The thick steel chains wrapped around the handles from the outside refused to move. Someone ran toward the back exit, locked. Another customer smashed a chair against one of the windows. The glass shattered, but thick iron bars covered every opening. The bar had once been built to keep violent people inside. Tonight, it had become a prison. Children cried, women screamed. The bartender desperately searched beneath the counter for spare keys. He found nothing. Rex Dalton laughed as he held the silver lighter between his fingers. The tiny blue flame reflected in his cold eyes. "You wanted to play the hero, Bruce. Now save them." Bruce looked around the room. Dozens of innocent people, terrified faces, some injured, some frozen with fear. None of them deserved to die. His bleeding shoulder throbbed with every heartbeat. The wound burned beneath his black jacket. But Bruce ignored the pain. His eyes scanned every corner of the building. Years of martial arts had taught him something beyond fighting. When everyone else panics, observe, think, act, never in reverse. The sharp smell of gasoline filled the room. The wooden floor had been soaked, the walls, even the curtains. One spark, and the entire building would become an inferno. Bruce slowly looked at Rex. "You planned this before I arrived." Rex smiled proudly. "I always prepare for surprises." Bruce nodded. "Then you prepared your own defeat." Rex's smile faded. "What?" Before anyone could react, Bruce exploded forward, not toward Rex, toward the nearest support pillar. His right foot struck the thick wooden beam with unbelievable force. Crack! The entire pillar split. Everyone stared in confusion. Bruce struck again, another devastating side kick. Crack! The upper section shifted several inches. Dust fell from the ceiling. The bartender suddenly understood. The ventilation! Bruce had noticed something nobody else had. The old building had a damaged roof section directly above the broken support beam. One more strike. The beam snapped completely. The upper roof collapsed inward with a deafening crash. Sunlight poured through the opening. Fresh desert wind rushed inside. The powerful draft immediately pushed the gasoline fumes upward instead of allowing them to collect near the floor. Bruce had bought them precious seconds. Rex growled in frustration. "You think that saves them?" He hurled the burning lighter. Time seemed to slow. The flame spun through the air. Every terrified eye followed it. Bruce moved. His injured shoulder screamed in agony. He ignored it completely. At the last possible instant, Bruce leaped. His body twisted horizontally. His right hand caught the lighter before it reached the gasoline. He closed his fist. The tiny flame disappeared. Silence. Bruce slowly opened his hand. The lighter had been crushed into twisted metal. The crowd erupted. People cheered. Some cried with relief. But Rex wasn't finished. With a furious roar, he charged. This time there were no weapons, no tricks, only raw strength. The giant biker slammed into Bruce with the force of a charging bull. Both men crashed through several tables. Wood exploded around them. Bruce rolled across the floor. His wounded shoulder struck the ground hard. Pain shot through his arm. Rex immediately attacked again. Heavy punches rained down like sledgehammers. Bruce blocked 1, 2, 3. The fourth strike shattered the table beside his head. Pieces of wood flew everywhere. Bruce realized something. Rex was slower now. His breathing had changed. His earlier rage had drained his stamina. Bruce stood. Both men circled one another. Neither spoke. The entire bar watched in complete silence. Outside, the storm finally broke. Rain poured through the damaged roof. Thunder shook the walls. Water mixed with gasoline across the floor. Bruce quietly raised his hands, his familiar fighting stance, relaxed, balanced, flowing like water. Rex roared one final time. He rushed forward with everything he had left. A devastating right hook. Bruce slipped inside. A left elbow. Bruce turned his body. A knee strike. Bruce redirected it. Every attack became slower. Every movement easier to read. Years of anger made Rex powerful. Years of discipline made Bruce untouchable. Finally, Rex swung the largest punch of the night. Bruce stepped exactly 1 inch forward. His feet rooted firmly into the floor. His hips rotated, his back aligned. His entire body compressed for a fraction of a second. Then, Bruce delivered a perfect 1-inch punch. The impact sounded like a cannon blast. Thoom! The force exploded through Rex's chest. His enormous body lifted completely off the ground. He flew backward nearly 10 feet. Crash! He smashed through the heavy oak bar counter. Bottles shattered. Shelves collapsed. Everything became still. No one moved. No one spoke. Rex tried to stand. His knees buckled immediately. His arms trembled uncontrollably. He looked down. Several ribs had fractured. His right shoulder refused to move. His breathing became shallow. For the first time in his life, Rex understood defeat. Bruce slowly walked toward him. The customers watched every step. Rex expected another strike. Instead, Bruce extended his hand. The giant stared in disbelief. "You aren't going to finish me?" Bruce looked calmly into his eyes. "If I wanted revenge, I would have become you." The words pierced deeper than any punch. Rex lowered his head. Years of violence, years of fear, years of hatred. None of it had defeated Bruce Lee, because Bruce had fought with something stronger than anger. Self-control. Outside, police sirens echoed across the desert highway. Several truck drivers who had escaped through the collapsed roof had already called for help. Within minutes, sheriff deputies surrounded the rusty horse. The chained doors were cut open. Paramedics rushed inside. One by one, the injured bikers were treated. Not a single innocent customer had lost their life. The sheriff approached Bruce. "We've heard stories about you." Bruce smiled gently. "Stories usually grow larger than the truth." The sheriff looked around the destroyed bar. Broken tables, collapsed beams, dozens of defeated gang members, Rex Dalton sitting silently in handcuffs. The sheriff chuckled. "In this case, I think the stories were too small." As deputies escorted the Iron Wolves outside, something unexpected happened. Snake, the tattooed biker who had cracked the egg over Bruce's head, stopped in front of him. His broken wrist rested inside a sling. His face was filled with shame. He lowered his head. "I'm sorry." Bruce looked at him quietly. Snake continued, "I thought strength meant making people afraid." Bruce shook his head. "No. Real strength is protecting people who cannot protect themselves." Snake nodded slowly. For the first time in years, he understood. Bruce picked up his black jacket from the chair where he had folded it before the fight. It was stained with egg, blood, dust, and rain. He put it on without complaint. The frightened waitress walked toward him, holding a small paper bag. "You never got your dinner." Bruce smiled. She opened the bag. Inside was a simple sandwich and a bottle of water. "It's not much, but it's on the house." Bruce accepted it with both hands. "Thank you." As he stepped outside, the storm had already begun to fade. Golden rays of sunset broke through the dark clouds. Bruce walked alone down the empty highway. No celebration, no reporters, no victory speech, only quiet footsteps disappearing into the desert. Behind him, the rusty horse would forever be remembered as the place where an entire gang learned one unforgettable lesson. They believed humiliating a peaceful man made them powerful. Instead, they discovered that true strength is never measured by fear, weapons, or violence. It is measured by the discipline to remain calm, the wisdom to protect others, and the courage to fight only when there is no other choice.